Thank you all for joining us again at I-80 Sports, where today we're coming at you with our Week 4 preview. Quite a bit of moving and shaking in the NHL this week, so let's get recapped. Guys, thank you all for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. All for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. Make sure that you follow us down below, youtube.com/I-80 Sports. And make sure that while you're there, drop a comment down below. What do you think about your teams going on in the NHL right now? When we get to our question today, react there down below too. And hey, while you're there, drop a like and subscribe if you like all of our work. And beyond that, if you like everything other than the NHL and you like the NFL, NBA, MLB, MLS, all other major sports, we cover that too. Check that out down below, youtube.com/I80 Sports. And if you're still on X, make sure you follow us down below at I80_Sports NHL. And if you follow us already, thank you guys so much because we greatly value all of your support. I'm Brian. He's Tom. Tom, how you doing today?
Doing well. Today is Sunday. It's the end of the week. We are going into Thanksgiving week in the United States of America where we live. Some other countries might not be that way. We have some interesting things going on in the league. We had some games played overseas. We have a certain player about to make a decision. We have a certain team that won a late one last night with 2 minutes left that I really like, but they still need a lot of work. I'll talk about them later on. And we just have a lot going on right now in the league. It's a lot happening. Definitely a lot happening.
Yeah, a lot going on. And actually coming up on Thanksgiving here, figured I'd get a little bit festive here, but what am I doing? I'm walking meme at the moment, getting that over to the side. But let's get into our hot topics of the day. Let's recap the week before in the NHL. So without further ado, let's get into this. Let's hit up that traffic report.
The I-80 Sports Traffic Report, where you can find all your news and notes from the week.
Feel like sometimes you just have a turkey on your head or something. Anyway, moving right along here. So starting right off at the top, unless you've been living under a rock, you may or may not realize that you have been watching NHL games not only in the US this week, but also you've been watching it in Stockholm, Sweden, as well as the NHL was heading up their global series this past week, featuring the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Detroit Red Wings, the Ottawa Senators, and the Minnesota Wild. Really good set of games that were played over there in Sweden. Really cool to see some cool hometown moments, especially with like William Nylander coming home to Sweden, having like a party of like 200 something people practically watching him, and actually his grandmother getting to watch him for the very first time live, which is really special to see. Tom, what was some of your instant reactions from the global series?
Well, it was a big thing for the Nylanders. They were zooming in on them in the crowd. Another big thing was that great Tim Stutzla overtime goal, almost like a baseball swing. If you were playing baseball, it'd been out of the park.
Dude looked like Shohei Ohtani on that play. Just like could not miss if he tried there. It was beautiful.
Yeah. William Nylander looked like he was on another planet in those games, though. He was really going hard. I'm going to talk a little bit more about him later. But what I thought was really cool is they were focusing in on his dad, former NHLer Michael Nylander, former New York Ranger, former center for Jaromir Jagr. Those were fun times for me, at least. And it was pretty cool. You usually never, ever see, unless it's like a parent's trip or whatever, usually never see like the father of the player in question sitting in the stands wearing his jersey. He was sitting in the stands wearing his son's jersey. So I thought that was pretty cool, too. I thought that was awesome. But I thought it was good. I honestly had thought this was the first time they did this on a bigger scale in Sweden, but I was wrong. They actually did do this back in 2011. It involved the Rangers, Anaheim, LA, and Buffalo back in 2011. They opened the season over there in Sweden. So it's not the first time this has happened, but it is the first time it's happened since 2011, where you have a mixture of teams going over there and a mixture of games, rather instead of just two teams going over and playing in a back-to-back like the NHL also has done with games in Europe before, whether it be Sweden or the Czech Republic or the like.
Yeah, I thought overall that this was really good. It's globalization for the NHL, which is always great because the NHL is always trying to grow and expand any way they can, much like a lot of other leagues have also tried to do. The NFL notoriously has been playing games in London all year and has been for the past few years. The MLB
Germany
is
too
also,
this year.
huh?
Germany too, Munich.
Germany as well. And actually, that's a country I was just about to mention for the NHL. If you really want to expand this even further over the next coming years, I would love to see the NHL start, maybe doing choosing places other than some popular places to choose in their global series. Like, I love the idea of going to Stockholm, Sweden. I think that's fantastic. But I would love to see them go and visit Germany and play a few games in Germany to really expand the market there. Go maybe play a game or two in Japan as well, expand the market there.
That was actually done back in 1997 when the Olympics were going to be, excuse me, in Nagano that year. Vancouver and Edmonton opened out there in Japan that year. Not Vancouver and Edmonton, Vancouver and Anaheim. I'm sorry, I got to correct myself.
No, and that's true. I would love to see them, I would love to see the NHL do that type of global series again. I think it's a great start going back to Sweden and doing a global series for what feels like the first time since COVID, but I know that they did at least something last year between Colorado and Nashville overseas as well. But I want to see the NHL commit to more. And that being said, I don't necessarily want to see the global series become almost like an in-season tournament like the NBA is doing in their mid-season tournament as well. I don't think it needs to be that extravagant. I don't think there needs to be bragging rights along. I think it's just a really nice idea to feature some of the best NHL teams, playing overseas and expanding the market a little bit more and expanding the prospect pool little by little each and every single time. But overall, nothing but positive remarks from the global series this past week between all those teams. And if you have the chance, go back to that overtime winner from Tim Stützle from the Ottawa Senators. It was a magnificent goal, and our description doesn't even give it justice. So go and watch that clip when you guys have the chance. Next, it's funny with this particular headline because this week for me has felt so long that I really honestly thought that this headline was like 2 weeks ago, but it apparently was this past week. That's just how long this week has felt. The Edmonton Oilers fired head coach Jay Woodcroft earlier this week, and they have since hired former AHL head coach of the Hartford Wolfpack, Chris Knobloch, as their replacement. Tom, immediate reactions here. Do you think that this is a step in the right direction for the Edmonton Oilers? Do you think Chris Knobloch is a good fit for them?
I think this has Connor McDavid written all over it, and it's not a knock on Knobloch. Knobloch was the head coach of the Hartford Wolfpack. My favorite team, the New York Rangers, is AHL affiliate. I honestly wanted him to come in and replace Gallant over the summer. He's a good coach. Good coach. Wanted him here. Wanted him instead of Laviolette. I might not be thinking that way anymore as of right now, as of the present time. But one thing to remember here is this. Chris Knobloch coached Connor McDavid in juniors with the Erie Otters. So I just think with the rumblings of McDavid, rumors being out there and him criticizing the organization, I think this might have been done to ease him up a little bit. I'm going to talk a little more about it later. But there is the connection there with Connor McDavid when it comes to Chris Knobloch. And Chris Knobloch was a good coach in Hartford. He replaced David Quinn a couple years ago when he was down with COVID. Coached the Rangers. The couple games he coached the Rangers, they responded very positive to him. So good for him. He deserves it, and I hope he does well.
Yeah, I think Chris Knobloch, he was one of the AHL coaches that I kind of had in my mind that was probably ready for an NHL promotion at some point. Admittedly, I thought that chance was going to come with the New York Rangers, but as Tom alluded to before, they pivoted to Peter Laviolette over this past offseason after firing Gerard Gallant after the playoffs last year. So Chris Knobloch was still the head coach of the Hartford Wolfpack until then. this is a solid move by Edmonton. It's a move that kind of had to happen, right? Because, Jay Woodcroft, what realistically had he done to at least help the culture in that locker room? And unfortunately, there has to be a scapegoat. The first scapegoat that fell was Jack Campbell. He goes down to the AHL. He has been miserable since then. If you've looked up his stats, he's 0-3 to start this AHL season down there for him. But something's got to give here, and Edmonton's just not working as a unit at the moment. And a lot of people have been quick to say, just like, oh, let's see how long Connor McDavid is going to hold. Words. Let's see how long Connor McDavid decides to stay. If the conditions stay like this. But the thing is, and I'm going to echo Ryan Whitney here from the Spit and Chicklets podcast, but these are all the moves that have been made over the past 4 years were Connor McDavid moves. These were moves to build around Connor McDavid. And if you lose Connor McDavid in the next few years, it's another failure. It's a complete collapse. It's probably the worst failure in management of the past 2 or 3 decades, at least. But Connor McDavid is not the first chip that is going to fall if that's the case. The real first chip that's going to fall is Leon Draisaitl. His contract is up first. I'm going to be more curious to see how this type of head coaching move impacts a guy like him and the ability of management to try to keep Leon Draisaitl around. Because for Edmonton's sake, if they can keep Leon Draisaitl around, they can keep Connor McDavid around more than likely. If they can't retain Leon Draisaitl, you're most likely not retaining Connor McDavid. Unless you're getting a crazy trade before Leon Draisaitl walks out the door to fill more pieces around Connor McDavid that you couldn't do otherwise. But I don't know. It feels like damage control right now in Edmonton, and I could certainly say that anybody that is friends with an Edmonton Oilers fan at the moment, you're probably walking on eggshells, and you're probably giving courtesy checks to those friends in need right now, and as you should. I could not even imagine what it's like being an Edmonton Oilers fan at the moment, but woof, not good so far, at least in my mind. But if you want my reaction, though, to the Jay Woodcroft firing, it had to happen. Hiring Chris Knobloch is a step in the right direction, and it's a Connor McDavid move. So moving right along, we'll assess as the season goes on what that really looks like. Speaking of superstar athletes, Patrick Kane. We haven't really seen much from him because he's been injured to start this season, and he's been a free agent. But it seems as though the free agent talks to hire Patrick Kane's services are all of a sudden starting to heat up as of earlier this week. And the decision could be expected soon on where Patrick Kane is going to end up. And there have been rumors abound of different teams that have been discussing bringing him in for a meeting and maybe just talking culture. We've heard rumors of Buffalo. We've heard rumors of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've heard rumors of the LA Kings. There are rumors abound with Patrick Kane, and it doesn't seem like we have a definitive answer of where he could end up. But Tom, your reactions here. Do you think there's still any chance that he goes back to either New York or Chicago?
I think Chicago is out. I think Chicago's out the window. I think LA is out the window. I think Colorado's out the window. While he hasn't said anything, his preference is to stay on the East Coast, not even the East Coast, just in the Eastern time zone with an Eastern Conference team. His father doesn't fly. His father drives to all his games. He wants to stay with an Eastern team. So that's number one. So then you mull it down to his hometown Buffalo Sabres. You mull it down to where his old buddy Alex DeBrincat is, the Detroit Red Wings. You mull it down to the Florida Panthers, who have rumored to have been talked to him. And you mull it down to the team he spent a little bit of time with last year, the Rangers. Well, right now, he has said that he doesn't care to go somewhere for the money. He wants another shot to try to win the Stanley Cup after being out of the playoffs for so long because of the idiot management up in Chicago. Well, with the way Buffalo's playing right now, I think he can throw them out the window. They're probably looking like they're not a playoff team. Detroit. Now, Detroit's a little bit different. You have the Brinkat there, but the Brinkat is on a freaking really invincible line one with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. You're going to break the chemistry up on line one to bring him in. You might hear some people complaining. Number two with Detroit is this. Detroit right now, I think probably is a 65-35 shoo-in for the playoffs. But it's the playoffs. Playoffs? Yeah, playoffs.
The playoffs?
I don't think the Red Wings are going to win a round. Best case scenario is they win a round. So that really leaves it down to the Rangers and the Panthers. 2 Stanley Cup contenders. And I think that's what ultimately it's going to come down to. I think it's going to be those 2 teams. I'll share some more thoughts on it later on. But I think that it's going to come down to them 2. I don't think he's going out west. I don't think he's going home to Buffalo. And I think that Detroit is a reach right now. I think the Red Wings will probably make the playoffs, but I still think it's a reach. These aren't the Detroit Red Wings of the 90s and the 2000s who were automatic Stanley Cup contenders every year. I think that this Detroit team, if everything breaks right for them, maybe they win a round this year if they're lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from on the Buffalo standpoint, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a hot second here because, yeah, currently right now, if we look at the NHL standings right now, today, November 19th, 2023, the Buffalo Sabres right now are in last place in the Atlantic Division. That is just a statistic right now. But it's still so early on in the season. They've played 17 games. They are 7-9-1 for 15 points so far in the season. That's not a horrendous start. It's not Columbus in the Metropolitan Division, who's 4-10-4 right now. It's not the San Jose Sharks, who are 3-13-1 in the Pacific Division. It's not the Chicago Blackhawks, who are 5-10 in the Central Division. You know, the Atlantic Division is a strong division. And Buffalo does have one thing going for them, and that is youth, but they also have some names there that are at least enticing to a player like Patrick Kane. You mentioned before with the Detroit Red Wings, sure, you probably don't want to break up that top line and how electric it's truly been recently. And I don't knock that whatsoever. Patrick Kane is more than likely a line 2 player on Detroit right now because of that chemistry. No doubt about it. When you have Alex DeBrincat on that team, you're probably not going to break up the chemistry on the top line to bump him down just for that, especially with how amazing he's been to start this year. But in Buffalo's case, Patrick Kane, we get the chance to play on line 1, lining up next to Tage Thompson as his center. This, to me, I feel like is probably the most salivating thing for Patrick Kane. This is probably as close as you can get to the feeling last year when Patrick Kane was lining up with the likes of Mika Zibanejad. And I have to think that that is at least something that Patrick Kane is going to mull over. Plus, also being in his hometown. Realistically speaking, also, at the moment for Toronto, I don't know if I see Patrick Kane as the top line wing.
Well, here's the thing with Toronto too. It was already reported today, and take this with a grain of salt, that the Leafs are out. They don't want he's been and I'm sorry I failed to mention this earlier. I got so into what I was talking about, I failed to mention this. He has been skating in Oakville, Ontario. Oakville, Ontario is 2 towns away from Toronto. Oakville to Toronto is what Hoboken or Union City are to New York. It's right there. Right there on the same, basically on the border with Toronto. I don't know why I can't say that word right now. But the Leafs are rumored to be out. John Shannon, NHL Insider, reported that he met with the Leafs last week and then reported that the meeting actually never even took place. I think with the way the Leafs played in Sweden, when you have all your forwards, your 4 main core guys are going, and by all means, if you watch those games, they are all going. Matthews, Tavares, Marner, Nylander, all going. What the Leafs need right now to add to their team is not Patrick Kane. What the Leafs need is something on the back end, which we're going to talk about in a little while. But answer me this one, and I'm going to say it right now. You talk about Buffalo, the intrigueness of playing with Tage Thompson, but answer me this. The Sabres, even if they do turn it around and make the playoffs, are they going to even his interest is in winning another Stanley Cup and going deep. I don't see the Sabres doing that. Not in the division they're in right now, where you have the Boston Bruins, who are defying effing odds right now. Excuse my French. The Toronto Maple Leafs, who I just talked about, I'm not going to talk about them again. And the Florida Panthers, who I also just talked about, I'm not going to talk about them again. And the Detroit Red Wings, who I think are a 65-35 shoo-in for the playoffs as well.
I mean, it's all speculative right now. That's the biggest thing that we could possibly push forward is we truly don't know where Patrick Kane's going yet. It's also possible that Patrick Kane doesn't make a decision until close to Christmas time. If by that point, to be honest. But I bring up the idea of Buffalo not only because of the intrigue of playing on line one with Tage Thompson, but this is a team that at the moment is going to be getting one or two players back from injury that could actually, be kind of interesting. You have, for instance, Jack Quinn, who's been sidelined since early June with an Achilles injury, with a ruptured Achilles. It's looking like he's going to make his season debut as early as the early part of December. Now, the one knock that I will say, and this is a preview for our injury report, that could be a bit of a damper on the Buffalo news is Tage Thompson. Actually, upon looking at the injury report, he's going to miss some significant time with a wrist injury right now, and that happened on Friday. So that might actually put a significant dent, at least in my eyes, of the Buffalo news. But the only reason why I bring up Buffalo is because Patrick Kane realistically might not be signing for just 1 year in one place. It might not necessarily be a stopgap. He might look for a 2-year contract to at least get him through the rest of the season and get him to the next season.
Which is true, and I understand that, but I think his mind right now is on. I think Buffalo is on his mind, and maybe a year from now. I think that after last year, he had his taste of the playoffs again, and he wants it again. And I think he's pissed off because I think a lot of us thought that Gerard Gallant was an idiot last year. And even though I supported him, I thought he was an idiot. And I think he wants to go deep again. I think he's very, in his mind and in a lot of other people's minds, is that those last couple of years in Chicago were wasted, in the words of Iron Maiden, were wasted years. It's an Iron Maiden song for those who in the know. Were wasted years. I think that he felt that he could have been. I think that he felt that ownership was going to turn it around. The Hawks were going to turn it around, and they never did. And there he was, toiling away on a bad team when he could have been contributing somewhere else. And I think he wants that taste of the playoffs again. And I just don't know right now if Buffalo can give that to him. I'm not saying he'll never go there. He may go there. I think he's going to play another 2 or 3 years. He may go there a year from now, 2 years from now, maybe 3 years from now, play one last year there and call it a day. But I just think right now where Buffalo is, I don't know if Buffalo can provide him with that playoff, with going deep in the playoffs and having a chance to sniff that Stanley Cup again. And I know he won 3, but hell, Wayne Gretzky in 1995 had 4 cups. And you know what he said when he left LA? I don't want to be wasting away on this team anymore. I want to go somewhere where I got a chance to win and I can contribute in the playoffs because I know I can still do it. And believe it or not, as much as the Ranger fans don't want to believe it, because some of them are delusional morons, and I'm sorry, but it's the truth, he was a big part of the Rangers. Even though they lost in 7 to the Devils last year, he was one of their best forwards in that series.
Yeah. And it's also not completely ruled out that he doesn't go back to the Rangers. That's not completely ruled out at this point. But we're going to be monitoring this situation for the next few weeks until Patrick Kane does finally sign. Any kind of like rumors that we hear, like verified rumors, that is, not just like, trust me, bro, analytics. But we're going to be monitoring this going forward. We're going to be intrigued to see where Patrick Kane does end up, especially as it seems like he's slowly getting ready to hit the ice again and get ready to actually compete again. So it is going to be interesting to see. We'll keep monitoring it going forward. Next bit of news, we'll start glossing through these last 2 points here. The NHL and the NHLPA are mulling changing the 3-on-3 overtime format a little bit to speed up the game. Some ideas are a shot clock. Please, God, no. If you want to be the MLB, please, God, no. Others are no bringing the puck back into your zone after breaking out. And others suggest making the overtime 10 minutes. Yeah, actually, that would be a really good idea if you want my immediate reaction. I think the shot clock idea is gimmicky, and 3-on-3 is already gimmicky as is. And I think making it more gimmicky, I think, kind of takes away from things. No bringing the puck back into your zone after breaking out, a reverse offsides, if you will. I don't know if I like that either, because I like the idea of trying to control the puck. And you know what? If teams don't like that, then don't watch. I like the idea of making overtime 10 minutes if you really want to, change the speed of the game a little bit and change the pace. I am all for that. Honestly speaking, though, 3-on-3 is fun. I wouldn't mind going back to 5-on-5 overtime, honestly. That's just me. I know that might be the boring response. It's like going back to the past. I wouldn't mind going back to a 5-on-5, single overtime. And if you need to finish it with a shootout, you finish it with a shootout. Tom, what do you think here?
I don't mind the 10-minute one because I think with the 5-minute one, they're kind of running the clock out for the shootout, whereas the 10 minutes, maybe it'll open the ice up a little bit more. Maybe splitting it up, maybe bringing the 4-on-4 back, doing 5 minutes of 4-on-4. You don't have anything, then do 5 minutes of 3-on-3. Might be an idea too. But my idea ultimately is still nothing that has anything to do with this. It's the European and the Olympic point system. Make it 3 points for a regulation win and 2 points for an overtime or a shootout win. And maybe that'll intrigue teams to win more in the regulation so you don't even have to get to it. That's what I think. That's what I think would be the best way to go about it. Will it happen? I don't know.
Yeah, if you ask me, like adding a shot clock, a little bit of context for me, hockey was not my first love growing up. My first love was actually baseball. I grew up loving the game of baseball. I still love the game of baseball. Go Yankees. But it kills me with everything that the commissioner of the MLB, Rob Manfred, has done to this game to kind of bastardize it in a large way, where you have, a 15 or 18 second pitch clock now to try to speed up the game and speed up the pace of play. In extra innings, you have a runner starting on second base. I hate, gimmicky, unorganic things like that. Just there for the sake of being there because you can't catch other people's attention. Like I don't know. I hate it personally. It takes away from the spirit of the game.
The problem is that they never did the thing that they should have done, expand the playoffs to 8 teams per league, and then you'd have more interest in all the cities instead of watching a team win 90 games and lose on the last day of the season and go home with nothing. That's just my opinion on baseball, but this is not a baseball show.
Exactly. I bring up baseball here because when I hear ideas like this for overtime of like implementing a shot clock, no going back into your zone after you break out, all gimmicky things that I think takes away from what makes the NHL organically good and what makes it organically fun to watch. I don't like that idea. I'm for the idea. If you want to do anything, make it a 10-minute overtime. Change up the format a little bit. 3-on-3, yeah, it's a lot of fun for the faster paced game, but maybe making it 4-on-4 could be a lot of fun too for the first 5 minutes, and then 3-on-3 for the next 5 minutes. Changing the point system, for a regulation win and an overtime win and a shootout win could be a really good idea as well. That way you don't have teams just running out the clock, just trying to get to the shootout, for guaranteeing points. I think that at least can be looked at, not necessarily the pace of play. I don't think that needs to be done just yet. That's just me, though. Lastly, on our bits of news for this particular show, the Calgary Flames are allegedly open for business. They have some pending unrestricted free agents at the end of the season that could be on the move sooner rather than later. Names could include Elias Lindholm, Noah Hannafin, Chris Tanev, and the name that has been popping up more and more lately, and a player that could be on the move very, very soon, Nikita Zadorov, who requested a trade earlier this week. You have some teams out there that have, tried to put their hat in the ring to try to get a deal done. Of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs are on that because God forbid they ever focus on defense. And then another team that could at least be a dark horse in this could be the New Jersey Devils with their defensive woes lately. Tom, where do you think would be a good fit for Nikita Zadorov? Where do you think he ultimately ends up?
I mean, I really think either spot would be good for him, whether it be the Devils or whether it be the Leafs. They both need that help on the back end. They do. So it really depends. Right now, the Leafs would have to probably do some cap gymnastics to get him in there. The Devils, do they have the cap room? You're a Devils fan. You probably know more than I would.
They would have the cap room if they do a little bit of finesse. They would probably have to have Calgary retain some of his contract, no matter what.
That's probably a given with anybody at this point, though.
And they would probably need to move out a contract such as like a Brendan Smith, who's making like 1.25 to try to make it work as well.
So, I mean, I think it could be either one, but the real question to you is this. What do the Devils need more? What are they in more of a need of? Do they need a goaltender or do they need a defenseman?
I'll be controversial here, and I'll say they need a defenseman here because I honestly feel like their play in the defensive zone has been too lax lately. I don't know if it's necessarily defensive scheming. I think they could honestly use another big body who is a take the play away by taking the body out first type of player, and Nikita Zadorov fits that bill very well. And the one knock I've really seen on Nikita Zadorov's game is he spends too much time in the penalty box because of his style of the play, because he's a take the body first type of player. But the Devils at the moment, I mean, what was highlighted to me last night against the New York Rangers, they sorely missed a player like Timo Meier last night because you need a little bit of sandpaper in this lineup at the moment. And it's great to have a guy like Brendan Smith. It's great to have Colin Miller. But Lindy has not been playing Colin Miller as consistently. I hope he does going forward because the two games that I've seen Colin Miller finally play in, he's been great. And I think very defensively responsible. Brendan Smith, I understand why he's there. He's a locker room guy, but I don't think he necessarily fits the mold of this team. He's a guy that's going to stand up for his players and stand up for the younger guys, but I don't think he's been as defensively responsible. He's shown flashes, but he seems to be the general consensus scapegoat right now amongst Devils fans at the moment. And I think maybe changing the scenery, maybe bringing in a guy like Nikita Zadorov could take a little bit of that heat off, especially for a rookie like Luke Hughes, who a lot of Devils fans don't want to talk about this right now, but I will. Luke Hughes has not been very good defensively, and he has been it's really been showing that he's a rookie NHL defenseman right now. And that's no knock on him. I think offensively speaking, he's been very, very good. I think he's been among the top rookie defensemen in the NHL right now, not named Pavel Mintyukov. But the Devils are missing that extra edge right now on the back end, where I think Nikita Zadorov could be that missing puzzle piece. However, there is the question right now of if you do bring in Zadorov, who's the guy that's going to be sitting more often than not? It means that if you're not quick to dump Brendan Smith in a deal like this, one of either Brendan Smith, Colin Miller, or Luke Hughes is going to be missing some platoon time here. So that's a real decision that the Devils are going to have to make if they want to make a move like this. Personally, I would be for a move like this because truth be told, you look at the advanced analytics for Akira Schmid and Vitek Vanacek, both have not been bad at all this season. They have been subject to a lot of high risk chances. And that shows me on the advanced analytics side of things, they're subject to those high danger chances because of what's being given up by the defense right now. So the defense needs to tighten up. Maybe picking up a guy like Nikita Zadorov is that wake-up call for the defense too. But even if that move doesn't happen, the Devils need to figure it out here a little bit. And getting Jack Hughes back last night is a step in the right direction, but they still lost because they let a guy like Jacob Trouba run all over them. So they need a little bit of sandpaper in their lineup right now and tighten things up defensively. And I am confident that the Devils will do that. In terms of who needs Nikita Zadorov more at the moment, it's definitely the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they really need another bona fide defensive defenseman, and Nikita Zadorov would instantly make that defensive unit better on the left-hand side. I think Nikita Zadorov would instantly slot in as your number 2 left-handed defenseman on that team. Do you agree there, Tom?
I think so. It'd be interesting to see maybe if they pair him with Morgan Riley or not. I don't know if they would even think about doing that, but yeah, I think that he would definitely be what they need. And I've said in the past, the Leafs need goaltending or defense. It's one or the other. They're obviously not going to be able to get both, but I think right now they're maybe leaning more towards wanting to get a defenseman. So it's going to be interesting to see what they may do in pursuing him and what they may be able to give up the Leafs. It's going to be interesting because I do think Calgary is going to be indeed open for business. I just think that they're going to try to move quite a few players come the deadline.
All I know is they need a free Jonathan Huberdeau from that hell at the moment. The poor guy doesn't deserve this.
No, he doesn't. And that's going to be another interesting one. And the fact of the matter is this, and it's the worst kept secret in the league, Huberdeau never wanted to be there in the first place.
Yeah, and that's the real unfortunate part. As much as we'll praise Matt Tkachuk in Florida, it came at the expense of Jonathan Huberdeau going to Calgary. And I don't know if a lot of people will ever forget that one personally. All right, moving on to our injury report. We got some injuries that we got to report here, and I'm going to go as quickly as I can, running through these as well. Starting right off the top with the Anaheim Ducks. Trevor Zegras is going to be out indefinitely with a lower body injury, and there's no timetable yet for his recovery just yet. No knowledge on when he could be coming back. All we know is that he has been officially placed on the injury reserve list at the moment. Going down to the Arizona Coyotes, we got a bunch of injuries to report here. Barrett Hayton, he's made it to the injury reserve list with an upper body injury. He's considered week to week moving forward. Also out indefinitely right now is Jared Valimaki, who is going to be undergoing mouth surgery, and there's no timetable for his return either. Next, looking at Jack McBain, who is going to be out week to week and considered week to week moving forward after moving to the injury reserve list with a lower body injury. And then lastly, Travis Dermott, he's going to be out indefinitely with an upper body injury as well. There's no timetable for his recovery. However, he has been placed on the injury reserve list. Quite a lot going on for Arizona. It sucks too because they actually have been off to a pretty decent start to start this year. So I hope this really doesn't hamper their development here. Moving on to the Boston Bruins. Mark Grzelcyk is, I don't know if he actually played last night. Tom, you would probably know better than I do.
You know, I wanted to turn the game on last night. It was looking like a blowout. So I'll look. While you go on, I'll look.
Yeah, it sounded like he was probable for last night, but he had an upper body injury and not sure if he actually no. This is a probable for this coming Saturday night. My bad, because he was placed.
He didn't play.
Update from today, actually, from as early as today. It's looking like he could be coming back against the Rangers this coming Saturday night. So we'll monitor that and see what's going on. Also out indefinitely is Milan Lucic, not only with an ankle injury, but because he's a terrible human being. Good on you, buddy. And if you don't know, go look it up yourself. I'm not going to say it here because I'm not going to risk our channel being taken down for something like that. Nope. That's all I'm going to say. I mentioned before with the Buffalo Sabres, Tage Thompson is going to be out indefinitely with a wrist injury. No timetable, but it has been stated by the Buffalo Sabres that it is going to be a significant length of time that Tage Thompson will be out. As mentioned before, it's looking like right now that Jack Quinn could be making his season debut as early as the early part of December. So we'll see what happens going forward there. Nothing to report from Calgary, even though all the trade rumors that we reported last time as well. Freddie Anderson, as we mentioned last week, it was a known issue, the blood clot issue with Freddie Anderson. Still no timetable for his return. No update there, unfortunately, for him. Nikita Zaitsev, this upcoming Wednesday, he's going to be questionable due to a personal matter, and it's undetermined yet if he's going to be available for Wednesday's game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Andreas Athanasiou is also out indefinitely with a lower body injury, and he's considered week to week moving forward. I do not believe, though, that he has been added to the injury reserve list, though. That I'm not sure about. Also out indefinitely for the Chicago Blackhawks, Jared Tenorti, who he was officially shifted to the injury reserve list with an oblique injury. No timetable yet on his return either. To the Colorado Avalanche, Josh Manson is going to be questionable for this upcoming Monday against the Nashville Predators. And he has been sidelined for the last 3 games with an upper body injury. So it's left to be seen if he's going to suit up for Monday's game. Arturi Lekkinen is also out indefinitely right now with a neck injury, and he has been shifted to the long-term injury reserve list. So hopefully, I'm hoping that he can make a full recovery soon. I'm hoping that he's back sooner rather than later. Out for the season, though, however, for the Colorado Avalanche is Pavel Francouz, who's been shifted to the long-term injury reserve list. He will officially be undergoing groin surgery and will miss the remainder of the 2023-2024 season. But it doesn't seem like Colorado's been missing him that much, because Alexander Georgiev has been one of the better goaltenders in the NHL lately. So sucks to see, but luckily Colorado's not hurting too much. Speedy recovery to Pavel Francouz, though. Jared Roslovic for the Columbus Blue, Jack Roslovic rather, for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He has been shifted to the injury reserve list with an ankle injury, and it's anticipated that he's going to be out of action for 4 to 6 weeks. Didn't matter anyway, because Columbus is just kind of hot garbage right now. And Patrick Laine, no, he's not hurt. He was just benched today because he's just not very good at hockey at the moment, where careers go to die. Moving on to the Dallas Stars, Thomas Harley is questionable for Monday night with an upper body injury. He has missed the last 2 games with that same upper body injury, so it's left to be seen if he's going to suit up on Monday night against the New York Rangers. Going on down to the Detroit Red Wings here. Sorry about that. Jake Wallman is out currently at the moment with a knee injury. He's missed 1 game so far with a knee injury, and it's unknown at the moment. He's questionable for Wednesday's game against the New Jersey Devils, so left to be seen if he's going to end up playing in that game. Ville Husso is slated for a late November return, possibly next week, after the birth of his child. So congratulations to Ville Husso at the moment for him. Moving on to the Edmonton Oilers, Matthias Janmark is out indefinitely with a shoulder injury. He's been shifted to the long-term injury reserve, and the severity of this shoulder injury remains to be unseen. So we'll see how long it's going to take him to come back from that. Dylan Holloway also ended up on the long-term injury reserve list as well with a knee injury, and it's also uncertain when he's going to return to the lineup too. So we'll monitor that moving forward as well. Moving on to the Florida Panthers, Alexander Barkov is going to be out Monday night against the Edmonton Oilers, and he's currently nursing a knee injury. So he's going to be out Monday night. We'll see if he comes back later this week. And lastly, on the Florida Panthers, Josh Mahura is out indefinitely with a lower body injury. He was shifted to the injury reserve list with this lower body injury. And he's going to miss an undetermined length of time at the moment. Nothing new for the LA Kings. Victor Arvidsson is still month to month with that back injury. Also, no update for Minnesota for Alex Goligoski. We've got a few injuries to report here for the Montreal Canadiens, though. Starting with Raphael Harvey-Pinard, who is questionable Wednesday night with a lower body injury. He's missed the last 2 games with this same lower body injury, and we'll see if he suits up on Wednesday night against the Anaheim Ducks. Arber Shakai also was held out of his last game with an upper body injury, and he's also questionable for Wednesday night's game against the Anaheim Ducks. To Nashville now, over to the Nashville Predators. Ryan McDonough is going to be out indefinitely with a lower body injury, and it's unknown how long he's going to be out. He is not on the injury reserve list at the moment, though, so we'll see what happens. Lastly, on the Nashville Predators, Tommy Novak is slated for a late December return from an upper body injury. He's been on the injury reserve list for a while with that upper body injury, and he's slated to miss 4 to 6 weeks of action. And when I say a while, since Tuesday night with this upper body injury for Tommy Novak. So we'll see when he comes back. Moving on down to the New Jersey Devils here. We've got 2 players that are questionable for Wednesday's matchup against the Detroit Red Wings. Starting right off the top from an injury last night, Thomas Nosek is currently out with an upper body injury. He left in the middle of last night's game after a pretty clean hit by Jacob Trouba. That's why you keep your head up there, Nosek. And at the moment, he's currently uncertain for Wednesday's game against the Detroit Red Wings. And lastly, Timo Meier, who has missed the last 2 games with a lower body issue. Undetermined what that lower body issue actually is. But it's still up in the air if he's going to make it for Wednesday's game against the Detroit Red Wings. The last update that we've gotten about with Nico Hischier, though, is he's been on the injury reserve list with an upper body injury. They transferred him to the injury reserve list earlier this week, but his timetable has not changed for his return to action. It's looking like right now it could be the end of November that we see Nico Hischier suit up again, possibly next week for the captain of the New Jersey Devils. Down to the New York Islanders, Matt Martin is questionable for Wednesday night's game against the Philadelphia Flyers. He's been sidelined for the past 2 games with an upper body injury, and that's still what he is nursing right now. And Julien Gauthier also missed the previous 2 games with an illness, and it hasn't been established if he's going to be back for Wednesday night's tilt against the Philadelphia Flyers as well. Could be a fun matchup as well. Philadelphia has been hot to start this season. No updates right now for Adam Fox and Philip Hedl of the New York Rangers.
Actually, no. Hold on 1 minute. Fox actually started skating this weekend, so Fox is on the ice again.
All right, Fox is on the ice again, but still no timetable for his return as well. To the Ottawa Senators now, looking at Joonas Korpisalo. He has an undisclosed injury that he's missed the previous game with, but it is looking like for Friday's game against the New York Islanders that he should be back for that. He is a probable for Friday night against the New York Islanders. Down to the Philadelphia Flyers, who I mentioned was running hot right now. They have 1 injury to report. Mark Stahl, he has been activated from the injury reserve list after recovering from an upper body injury, but he's still questionable for Wednesday's game against the Islanders, so we'll see if he actually comes back for that game. Pittsburgh Penguins, Vinny Hinostroza at the moment is questionable for Wednesday night's game against the New York Rangers. He's been sidelined for the past 2 games with a lower body injury, so yet to be seen if he's coming back for that game. Also, sidelined is Pierre-Olivier Joseph. He has been shifted as of last night to the injury reserve list with a lower body injury, not yet determined on what his return date could look like at the moment. Moving on down to the San Jose Sharks. We got a few injuries to dole out here. Oscar Lindblom is out indefinitely with a lower body injury. He has been shifted to the injury reserve list and no return date slated yet for his return to action. Nico Sturm has been away from action due to a personal matter that he's had to attend to. And it's looking like that he is going to be returning to the team at the end of November. And then lastly, Jacob McDonald is also a late November return at the moment, who he's been on the injury reserve list for an undefined and undisclosed injury. So more on that when we get that information. No news to report from Seattle Kraken. No news to report from St. Louis Blues. To report from Tampa Bay Lightning. Anthony Cirelli has been absent for at least one game so far with an unknown ailment, and he's questionable for Monday night's game against the Boston Bruins. Lastly, Andrei Vasilevsky still on track to potentially make a late November return to action. So we'll hopefully have an update next week on Andrei Vasilevsky. To the Toronto Maple Leafs, John Klingberg is questionable for Friday's game against the Chicago Blackhawks. He has missed the last 2 games due to an undisclosed injury, so he's still questionable for Friday's game against the Chicago Blackhawks. Update on Connor Timmins. He has been on the injury reserve list, and it's looking like he's going to be back late November from his lower body injury. Moving down to the Vancouver Canucks. Pius Suter is questionable for Monday night against the San Jose Sharks. He's missed the previous 3 games with an unknown and undisclosed injury. So still questionable for Monday night against the San Jose Sharks. Carson Soucy, who has been out of commission with a lower body injury. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with that lower body injury. It's looking like a mid-January return to action for him. No updates for the Vegas Golden Knights. For the Washington Capitals, Evgeny Kuznetsov is questionable Wednesday night against the Buffalo Sabres. He missed his last game with an illness, so he's still questionable for this Wednesday's game against the Buffalo Sabres. And lastly, Martin Fehervary is out indefinitely with a lower body injury. He just recently hit the injury reserve list. No timetable yet on his return to action either. And lastly, the Winnipeg Jets. Rasmus Kupari is a late December return from a shoulder injury. He's slated to miss about 6 weeks of action. This is due back from Wednesday, November 15th. And he has been placed on injury reserve with that shoulder injury. It's looking like maybe between Christmas and New Year's a return for Rasmus Kupari. So quite a bit of injuries that we had to report there. Thank you for bearing with us while we ran those down. But it's time to move on to Wow or Worrisome, where we talk about all the teams that are doing some really, really good things as of late and teams that maybe we should be worried for their fan base at the moment. So, Tom, I'll start off at the top with you. Who's Wow or who's worrisome?
Well, Rangers and Leafs for the Wow. I mean, I know the Rangers were off for a week, but the wins against Columbus and the Devils were definitely statement wins, especially the win against the Devils. Rangers got a tough week coming up. They have Dallas, they have Pittsburgh, they have Philadelphia, and they have Boston at home. Going to be an interesting week for them. And like I said, the Leafs had a great little run there through Sweden. So the Leafs still have a lot of work to do, but I like the way they played over there in Sweden, and maybe this can be something that can springboard them. I don't know. We'll see. But at the same time, let's go back to Patrick Kane, who we were talking about, and a team that you were very hard up on for him, the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo was already in trouble. I watched them play against the Bruins last Tuesday night. They looked like they couldn't even defend any. And this is not the Bruins from last year with all that offensive firepower. The Bruins this year are a much more defensive club. The Bruins were looking like the 80s Edmonton Oilers against Sabres last week. They were. And now with Tage Thompson being out, that doesn't help them either. I think right now Patrick Kane is the last thing these Sabres need. The Sabres need to shore up their defense as well. And I don't know if Nikita Zadorov would even be wanting to go to a place like Buffalo. But Buffalo's got to figure it out on the back end. They do. That's their biggest problem. When you make a defensive club like the Bruins look like the Oilers from the 80s, it says enough. It does say enough. Now we move on to the Panthers. Barkov with the knee. It could be concerning. But right now with this knee with Barkov, it doesn't look like it's going to be that long term. And the Panthers are playing well anyway. So I don't think I fret too much about that. For the Rangers, Filipino, it's hard to tell where this is going. Are they going to permanently LTIR him? Are they not? And if they do, then they got to start looking for another center too. This Hedl situation is something I'm going to be following closely. Fox is already skating again. I think just with the terms of the LTIR, if the terms of the LTIR were a little bit different with Fox, he'd probably be playing again this week. He's not. Fox will be back by the end of the month. If he's on the ice again, he's fine. Now we go to the Oilers. They look better. They look better with Knoblauch. They lost yesterday to Tampa, obviously. But let's not beat around the bush here, guys. There were trade rumors abound about McDavid wanting to leave Edmonton. He criticized the organization. I got a funny feeling they pulled him in, ownership and the brain trust here up in Edmonton, and said to him, "What can we do to make you happy?" And you know what his answer was? Get rid of this coach and bring my coach from juniors in. Just a theory. Don't know how true it is, but that's what I think.
I wouldn't deny that would probably happen either, because I mean, I look in baseball right now with Aaron Judge, and they just brought a hitting coach that was literally his hitting coach from the minors, and hired him as the hitting coach at the MLB level. So stranger things have happened, and I wouldn't deny that could possibly be a motivating factor for Connor McDavid and Edmonton's management to bring in Chris Knobloch for that reason. My wows that I'm going to start off with here, the Philadelphia Flyers. Currently right now in the standings, they are currently sitting 4th in the Metropolitan Division at the moment. They are at the moment
further up now. They won, so they're in second right now.
So they're 10-7-1 to start this season, and I will attribute this solely to the return of one person, Sean Couturier. Sean Couturier has really made a heavy impact on this team to start the season, and it doesn't surprise me. Sean Couturier, before missing 600-something days of action, was one of the best centers in the NHL. He was a top 5 center in the entire NHL, in my opinion, and one of the best two-way centers in the entire league. When Patrice Bergeron wasn't winning the award, Sean Couturier was the other favorite for that award. And it's been making a big difference for the Philadelphia Flyers to start this season. And also decent coaching so far by John Tortorella, coaching this younger team at the moment. Also missing Rasmus Ristolainen has helped this team as well. Got to say that too. Wow, also to the Washington Capitals. I know I mentioned them as a bit of a worrisome team last week, but they've really turned things around this week. And it's amazing that I think Washington fans really just want to play New Jersey going forward, because they seem to have their best luck against the New Jersey Devils lately. My theory, just that alone. My last wow that I want to dole out here is the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg Jets right now are tied for second place in the Central Division, right next to the Colorado Avalanche, and they're sitting 1 point behind the Dallas Stars at the moment in the Central Division. They have been one of the best teams in the Western Conference to start this year, and it's been especially on top of amazing play in net for Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets. He's been one of the best goaltenders to start this year. Worrisome at the moment is the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're the only team that I want to mention here, because I could beat to death San Jose and the Edmonton Oilers, but I've done that before. Let's talk about a team that I haven't really talked about recently. The Columbus Blue Jackets. They've lost 9 of their last 10 games, and they have benched Patrick Laine for this upcoming game, as I mentioned before. They also benched Johnny Gaudreau for the third period last night in their last tilt as well. There's a lot of problems right now going on in Columbus, and it all started off at the top of the season with that coaching change, with hiring Mike Babcock to even start that season, and then doing the right thing, pivoting away from him, but doing the wrong thing by hiring him in the first place. This team was set up for failure right from the beginning of this season. It's this season so far at the moment. I know it's early, but it's such a wash for Columbus. It sucks to see. They have an exciting lineup coming up, but I feel like the mantra has always been, this is where careers go to die if you go and sign there. And you have young, promising talent that end up finding greener pastures later on. And I hope that's not the case here, because prospect wise, the last time I was excited about a prospect pool that the Columbus Blue Jackets had was going back to 2002 when drafting Rick Nash. That was the last time that it was truly exciting to be a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, at the prospect of a player like Rick Nash coming onto this team. And you have exciting players on Columbus. You have Adam Fantilli, you have Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, but these players, if they keep subjecting themselves to this level of torture, why are they going to stick around? Honestly. So Columbus has to do something to try to change things up quick, or just try to, instill hope for the future any way that they can. But right now it's like grasping at straws at the moment. It's difficult. It's truly, truly, truly difficult for Columbus fans at the moment. All right. Time to move away from Wow we're Worrisome. Let's start rounding out this episode of I-80 Sports. Let's talk high performance. Let's talk our players of the week.
Your I-80 Sports High Performance Players of the Week.
Who do you want to mention for your players of the week?
Well, start from the top. We talked about Sweden. We talked about the Global Series. We talked about the Maple Leafs. We talked about William Nylander. 5 points in 2 games played over there in Sweden. Overtime winner today against Minnesota. Really stepped it up. Wow. Again, Artemi Panarin, I won't go into it. The guy is lighting it up. He's lighting it up. He looks like a man on a mission. He does. He looked that way last night against the Devils. Took that game into his own hands at the end, whereas last year when that Eric Haula goal went in against the Rangers last year, you could have chalked that up to a 3 or 4-2 win for the Devils. Panarin said, nope, we're not going to do that this year. We're not doing that this year. So Artemi Panarin, again, I hate to keep putting him in there, but I mean, he just doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. He just doesn't stop. Say what you will. I got to go up in Boston, the goalie tandem of Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. Again, the Bruins are wowing me again, and this was a team that I thought was going to be literally just trudging away, was wasting away this year, and they're not. But it's funny we brought it up with Calgary before with Elias Lindholm available. The Bruins might be a landing spot for him if they indeed trade him. He may be somebody that could help the Bruins out big time. We got to see. We don't know yet. We don't know. And while we're on goalies, homer alert here, Jonathan Quick filled in Igor's shoes paramountly. I don't know if paramountly is a word. Probably not. But
Valiantly,
paramountly, whatever. But it's late. It's Sunday. I'm tired. But yeah, I don't mind it. Jonathan Quick, I got to give credit where credit's due. Jonathan Quick has been a rock for the Rangers. Igor's back now. But now the tandem of Igor and Jonathan Quick will maybe not use as much as Swayman and Ullmark up in Boston is probably right up there as one of the better goalie tandems in the league. I got to say it.
Yeah, I got to agree there. And actually took one of my picks there because Jonathan Quick, I even mentioned to you earlier this week, has been a godsend for the New York Rangers to start this season. With Igor going down, Jonathan Quick filled in perfectly and showing shades of like a decade ago for him, just showing why he is a bona fide first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. My mentions here that I'm going to mention as my players of the week, I'm going to start off right up the bat with Tim Stützle of the Ottawa Senators. Beyond just that beautiful goal that he scored in the Global Series, he has 9 points in his last 5 games as well, 2 goals and 7 assists in that span of time. He's been playing really, really well for the Ottawa Senators recently. Kyle Connor, what more can be said about the last 6 games for him? 8 goals in his last 6 games. He has 13 points over that time as well. He is a big reason why Winnipeg has been on a tear recently. Also want to give mention to another player with 13 points in that span of time as well. That's Sam Reinhart of the Florida Panthers, who also has 13 points in his last 7 games, 5 goals and 8 assists. Also with 13 points in his last 6 games is Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche, and he's making an argument to win the Norris Trophy again this year, and we'll just have to see where that kind of goes. Lastly, and I hate to give kudos where kudos are due, but Vancouver has been on a tear recently, and it's been on the backs of JT Miller and Quinn Hughes, who both have 12 points in their last 7 games, respectively. JT Miller, 5 goals and 7 assists in that time. Quinn Hughes, 3 goals and 9 assists in that time. Those are my players of the week. That's who I want to mention here. Really good things happening across the board over the last week and a half here. Let's round out this episode of I-80 Sports with our question of the day. Let's rehash the beginning of the episode here, Tom. Gun to your head. Where does Patrick Kane end up?
Well, I just want to say one thing about Quinn Hughes, and I'm just realizing this now. He's technically leading the league in scoring right now. I don't even know. The last time a defenseman won the scoring title was Bobby Orr, way back when. 1975, if I remember rightly, and I could be wrong on that, but I think it was. But I can't even remember the last time a defenseman led the league in scoring. I mean,
last time a defenseman won the Hart Trophy, actually.
Last time a defenseman won the Hart Trophy, it's a great question. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. The last time one won the Art Ross was Bobby Orr, I believe, in 1975. But the last Hart Trophy win by a defenseman, I don't remember off the top. I don't know if there's been one in my lifetime, to tell you the truth. It's mostly been forwards. I think Jose Theodore was a goalie, won it the 1 year. But in my lifetime, I don't even know. I mean, let me see here.
Last defenseman that won a Norris Trophy was Chris
Pronger. No, the Hart Trophy. Defenseman always wins the Norris Trophy. Chris Pronger.
No, sorry. Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant, the Hart Trophy. Last defenseman that won the Hart Trophy was Chris Pronger in 99, 2000.
But listen, that's something the writers vote on. The Art Ross Trophy, you win it by having the most points.
No, exactly.
Nobody's done it. Nobody's done it since Bobby Orr. I mean, I don't think it's. Do I think this is gonna stay this way? No, I don't. No. But I'm just saying it's very impressive.
Absolutely.
So,
Patrick Kane, where does he end up?
What's that?
Patrick Kane, where does he end up?
That's what I was gonna say. Let's get back to what we were supposed to talk about. Like I said before, I think Buffalo's out. I just don't see it. He wants to win a Stanley Cup. He wants to go deep. They don't have what it takes. They don't have anybody on the back end. Tage Thompson's hurt. I think Buffalo's out. Like I said, Detroit, 65-35 playoff team, yes. But what do Buffalo and Detroit have that could have wooed Patrick Kane there? The cap space, the money. So they have that, right? But if they have that, and he wanted that, would have been done already, don't you think? So in my mind, it comes between the Rangers and the Panthers. And honestly, the Panthers have made their pitches to him. The Panthers are going to have to do some work to get him. The Rangers are going to have to do some work to get him. Now, I know Brooksy for the Post said last week the Rangers were out on him. Larry Brooks is an idiot. He's wrote some stuff that would make you want to recycle your newspaper and use it for toilet paper. So I do think at the end of the day, he is pushing and pushing and pushing for one more go of it with the Rangers. And I think that maybe it's going to be the Rangers. I do. I don't know about the Panthers. I don't know. I think that he really wants the Rangers. I think that he's going to go till he can't go anymore, and the Rangers tell him, sorry, we can't do it. Especially with the uncertainty with Filipino now, where if they LTIR him and that $4 million is off the books, that's going to be something to start looking at, especially if they can bring him in for 2 and then get another center to come in for 2 if Hedo's really done for the year.
Maybe. But at that point, if Hedo's going to be on the IR for possibly the remainder of the year, a wing is definitely not the first thing you need, but that's just me. But
anybody else you have to trade for. This is a free agent signing. You're not giving up anything for him.
No, that's true. And you're not wrong. But, and I say this knowing I'm going to be wrong, the Buffalo Sabres. That just seems like the safe answer at the moment. Just, he's a hometown boy. It's right in his backyard. They're a team that if he decides to sign for beyond just 1 year, is a team that is a very interesting prospect, in the next 2 years. So maybe. I'm not saying it's definite, but gun to my head, that's the team I'm thinking of at the moment. But I know for sure it's going to end up being a different team. So,
but it's like I said, and it's like he said, he wants to go deep. He wants to try to win again. The Sabres are nowhere near there. Can I see it? And I'm going to repeat myself, and I hate to sound like a broken record. Can I see it happening next year? Yeah. Can I see it happening the year after? Hell yeah. But I just don't see it happening right now.
I just like watching the world burn personally. And it keeps them away from the Rangers.
I just think it makes the most sense because you're going to have to – I don't think Frank Vetrano might be on the radar. Tarasenko reunion might be on the radar, but they have to give up stuff to get those guys. All they have to do with this is get him to sign a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, either way, for everybody watching at home, what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree with our takes? Let us know down below, youtube.com/IID Sports. Hit up the comment section. Where do you think Patrick Kane's going to end up? What do you think of everything that we talked about today as well? Let us know in the comment section below. And while you're there, hit the like button and hit the bell notifications so that way you know when our videos go live as well. And check out our other content on the channel as well. NFL, MLS, MLB, the whole nine. Check out all of our content there as well. If you're still on X, make sure you follow us down below at I80_Sports NHL. And thank you guys for following us, and if you follow us already. But less talking, more hockey watching. We're going to watch more hockey this week. Happy Turkey Day to all the people that celebrate across the world as well. Coming up this Thursday, we'll be coming back at you following our our turkey coma and food comas, respectfully. But until then, I'm Brian. He's Tom. This has been our Week 4 recap of the NHL on I80 Sports.